All right, guys, welcome back for another one. This will probably be the third and final video for the roll cage installation. And we were just inside here, and I think we're gonna use this back hump here where the shocks mount. You can see our plates mocked up on top there on both sides. And we're gonna come from our top hoop and run down to there. And we're gonna have to notch these a little bit on the sides. And we're gonna go plate right to that portion of the hump there. So we've already got our measurements done, and I got the rear bar laying out over here. I got the first one mocked up and ready to cut. I don't know why this thing won't focus, but this thing won't focus. So I'm gonna try to figure this out, and then I'll set up a time lapse of me getting this stuff cut. Guys, got that thing all mocked up. Used my hillbilly cutting method, as you saw, since I don't have a chop saw, but turned out pretty good. We're just about centered up, and we had to notch that there just a little bit. Use this bar as a template for the other one so we can get it cut out, and then once I get that cut out, we'll be able to tack all this stuff in place and weld her up. All right, guys, I got these exactly squared up at the end. Took my measurements. As you can tell, there's my center point for the peak, and I got my angle matching the other one. So I basically measured to that peak, carried that measurement over here, and then the bottom peak, took it over there and connected with my tape, and the angle's almost perfect. So go ahead and get the second piece cut out and get it all smoothed up and matching the other one, and should be ready to start tacking stuff in place. All right, guys, we got to working and got our plates tacked in, got our bar tacked in, or both bars, I mean. Got them tacked in up top here. So got the window covered and got the seats covered, and we're gonna go ahead and finish weld these things in. Guys, they're all fully welded in. All done up top. and down here. So let's go take a look from the inside and see how it looks. All right, guys, here it is from the inside of the car. So everything turned out pretty nice. Pretty stoked with it. Really, really happy with it. So, and if you don't have one of these Milwaukee floodlights, you're missing out. These things are sweet. You can run your M18 batteries on them, and or you can just run an extension cord straight to it, plug it into your wall, and have unlimited light source with it too. So things are pretty cool. But yeah, there it is. So we may end up coming back and doing door bars as well as triangulated bars down to the drive shaft tunnel there. So if we get that stuff, we'll let you know. And yeah, pretty stoked. We measured each bar from side to side there, and they're both equal. Looks pretty awesome. Get a shot of it through the side glass there. Looks pretty mean with the cage in it. Well, that's it for that for now. So we'll pick up on whatever day we decide to come do the next step, whichever it is we decide to do next. Just made a quick trip back from the old Harbor Freight. And I don't know if any of you guys do any sheet metal work. These things are freaking awesome. And I've been waiting because I bought one of these about 6 months ago, just about. And it broke after using it for like 5 minutes, and went in to get another one. And they've been out for the past 5-6 months. So finally got this thing back in. And normally they do pretty well. Our last one lasted about 10 years. So we just must have got a bunk set last time. So if you don't have one of these and you're doing sheet metal work where you're punching little spot weld rosette holes to weld, like little spot welds, or need to flange stuff for setting panels in, this thing's the way to go. And it's like $37.99. So just want to put this in here to show you guys if you've never used one or do that stuff and don't have one of these. These are a huge help. And then this is the that's what it looks like, so you can go in and pick one up. All right, we're still continuing with part 3 here on the roll cage. So I wanted to show you guys where I was at. We weren't too keen on doing door bars since this is going to be more of a street car and we don't really want to struggle getting in and out of this thing. And it's always something we can go back and add later. But we are going to go ahead and make this a 6-point cage. And we're going to go ahead and come down from here to the floor. And I know there's some that say you need to go from like this connection point all the way over to the tunnel. And then I don't know if you guys watch any of the roadkill stuff with Freiberger and Dulcich. They have one and it comes from this meeting point and then runs right down into here. So I think that's exactly what we're going to do, just like their 56 field car. And I went to the scrapyard today, got some more 1/8 inch plate to plate this thing in at the floor. This was $2.68, so I'm pretty stoked. I'll even have some left over. All right, let's go ahead and get our 2 plates marked up, get this thing cleaned up, and cut out. So basically I just laid this thing down and got the old wire wheel out, got it cleaned up, and then started marking off what I needed for my plates. And got the cutting wheel out and got my guidelines cut and then started cutting through everything. That way they're both even and both exactly 6x6 squares. Ended up turning out pretty nice. So after this, we'll be ready to mock them up. All right, we are continuing with part number 3 of the roll cage. So I wanted to show you what we're doing now. Got the plates all cleaned up. The secondary set of plates here, which I'll show you why we have these. As you can tell, this is a 4-point cage, as I went over 1,000 times already. So not that we need it, but we're doing it just because it'll give it some extra strength, and honestly, it'll just look kind of cool. So we are going to do the lateral frame support bars that tie in right here at the bottom of this harness bar, or the crossbar, whatever you want to call it. So it'll tie in right here and come down right in probably where that plate's at there, close to as close as I can get it to the trans tunnel. So that's what I'm going to be getting started on. So I've already got my measurement from here to there, and we'll get this tubing notched up and start playing with it and getting how far or how much I need to trim and cut and what angle I want to run up here for the tubing to mount there, and what kind of angle. I know I'll probably need like a 40 or 45 degree angle there at the bottom. So, and also I went and borrowed the tubing notcher from the shop, so I've already got that sucker set up and ready to go for when this tubing comes in. And while we're waiting on that tubing to come in, it should be in tomorrow. I'm gonna go ahead and hop in here because I went, of course, Rust-Oleum stuff is kind of scarce right now, but can't find the satin black anywhere. I can only find it in these little half pints. So bought a few of those, and we're basically just gonna get like a foam brush and just brush paint the cage. Simple, quick, easy, no overspray, no taping crap off, and it'll kind of look old school. So I think it kind of checks all the boxes and makes it easy, and makes our life a lot easier too. So I'm gonna hop in here and get me a piece of Scotch-Brite, which I got the gray stuff here, which is basically like 600 grit. So we'll grab that and get in here and start sanding away, so that way it's all scuffed up and ready for paint, especially after we weld those new bars in. That'll be completely ready. All right, got my light set up, so I'm ready to jump in here and get this thing all scuffed up so we can get it painted after we weld in these lateral bars. Got her all scuffed up, and then what I'll do before we actually paint it, since we still got to weld those lateral tubes in, I'll go through and get some lacquer thinner and wipe the whole thing down real nice, and then we'll be ready to lay some paint on it. All right, it's the next day, and as you saw, I got the cage all prepped for paint, and we got the new tube. So we'll get this thing out, start some measuring, and get the time lapse probably rolling, and show you guys how I'm gonna notch this thing and get it put in place. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, I'm gonna go off what I notched these other bars at. I had filmed some stuff on these, but I deleted it because we want to do it the right way and not go with what we had because they were just far too short. But I did a 60 degree on the notcher, and it brought it, they ended up down in here, which you don't want. But I like the angle they were at, and I'm kind of liking where they were placed at on the floor is right in this general area, which is a little bit closer to the tunnel. So I'm going to basically base it off, as you can see those over there, base it off those guys and do that same angle so we can come from right up here right down to where that plate's at. So basically what I'm going to do is get myself a measurement from here to that plate so I know my overall length, and then I can figure out everything else from there. Okay, so I held my other bars up there in the exact position I want, held them in place, and measured, and I needed them 7 inches longer than where they're at now, which is 31 inches. And then I measured without the pipe in there to be sure it's the same, right at 31 inches. So the longest portion of the pipe, which is from the longest tip, which will be welding right underneath the harness bar, down to the plate will be 31 inches. And obviously we'll angle cut that to mount up flush with the floor. And then it'll be the degree cut that we choose up on the pipe there. So, and I think I'm going to keep it at what I did, which is at 60. And that should put me right where I want to be to get those the same as how I had those other pipes, but longer so we can weld them in the right spot. So this is pretty, so I'll just set up a time lapse and so you guys can see me measure this out, cut it, notch it, and then once I start getting them fitted, I'll show you real time on that, and then we can get everything cleaned up and tacked in place. Time lapse there, I was kind of going back and forth. So this is my first time ever using a tubing notcher or doing a lot of tubing work in general. So it's just a big learning curve for me, but it's fun. I like learning new stuff. I'm not scared, and I'll show you my mistakes. For some reason at this angle, where I want to notch my tube, when I try to get all the way through it, it's running into the actual clamp. So I don't know if I'm doing something wrong there, or if it's just the design of this thing. So I basically just got, I don't know, well over 3/4 of it. No, over 3/4 of it all the way through. And then took it over there with my other hole saw and just laid it down in the groove and just went and finished it out. And then opened up with my deburr bit just a little bit. So now I'm ready to figure out what kind of an angle I need at the bottom so I can get it cut and get this thing fitted up and see how it is so I can mimic it exactly on our other piece. So I'll probably show you when I get this one fitted up and get the other one done, since I already showed you a time lapse and told you about getting this one where it is, so that way I don't bore you with doing the same thing twice. So we'll see you when we're fitting these things up. All right, guys, got this thing fitting how I want it. So we will probably get this scribe there at the bottom, get the plate tacked in, and tack this thing in up top, and then start on this other side. So after I get this thing all finished out, we'll show you when I'm all done. So go ahead and go get this other one made. Probably gonna go in and get me some lunch and then come back out and finish it. All right, guys, like I said, it was pretty tedious, so I just went ahead and finished it out. As you can tell, I kept it a little bit below the harness bar. It's about 7/8 of an inch below it. If I would have went all the way up, I really wouldn't able to get my welder in there and do a really good weld, or at least as good as I could do here. With our tubing notcher, just wouldn't give me the right degree I wanted, just because it only goes so far. And I'm not a professional at this. I don't know what would have been the best route, but this is the best at what I could figure out. So this is what worked. So I dropped it down just below it and went down to my plates. So we got both sides all done, all fully welded out. So now we are ready to do paint. So probably go ahead and set up a little time lapse here and get the painting going. All right, guys, just got the first coat of paint on the cage, as you saw in the time lapse. And it's obviously a little glossy because it's wet still, but it is a satin black Rust-Oleum, so nothing super fancy. Was able to get in and above and around everywhere, so I was pretty happy. So yeah, there it is. And that is the finished product, guys, of this S&W cage. And those are the 6 points we just added that we've been going over in the previous clips there. But she's all done. Looks pretty good. We'll see if we can see it from the front of the car here. Yeah, looks pretty darn cool. Pretty happy with it. Can't beat that. Well, that's going to wrap up the cage. I'm probably going to do it for this episode. So hang around, see what we get into next. Pretty sure I'll be making the engine mounts finally. So we'll go over more of what we're doing with that and what engine we finally decided to go with, since we had a few different options. And we'll go over that in the next one. But that's going to be it. So remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys on the next one.